Yo, I'm back. Long hiatus. This is KP Kevin Perry with Platinum Sports Media. I got my dogs outside. They're probably going to start barking. Um, we're just going to start doing some impromptu type shows, real basic. I just want to start posting more, getting some stuff out there, talk about different topics. We can talk about boxing for the most part, and also basketball and some other sports when some interesting things come up as far as sports and media and pop culture. Um, to get back to boxing, a couple of things I'm going to speak about today is there's an upcoming fight with Mario Barrios for WBC welterweight title against Ryan Garcia. I believe that's coming up in February. It's just been announced. Ryan Garcia is coming off of a loss. Before that, he was suspended for performance enhancing drugs in his fight with Devin Haney. And I'm just not sure how this guy deserves a title shot at this point. But it's a good fight. It's going to be at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So I think it's going to get a lot of buzz. So it's definitely something that we'll probably talk about when the fight gets closer. Also, there's been some chatter about Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz and Gerard Boots Ennis, they're both top fighters at 154 pounds. This big supposed fight between the two has been talked about, or apparently been they've been negotiating it for quite some time. And like I said a long time ago, I haven't posted in a while, but I've said this on some other message boards for some other YouTube channels. Uh, I just couldn't see this fight happening. Oscar De La Hoya said 60-40 and 5% to the winner, 60% to his guy, who is Virgil Ortiz, undefeated. I believe he's like 22 or 23-0 with about 20 knockouts. I mean, he's got a lot of knockouts, but two of his last three fights went the distance. So you kind of see once he stepped up in opposition, he wasn't as big of a puncher as he used to be. He is a big puncher. He is a really good fighter. I don't know how much he made in his last fight. He probably made a lion's share of the money. He fought Erickson Lubin. He got a second round knockout. Looked really good. Referee stoppage on his feet, but I think this stoppage was warranted. Jerome Boots Ennis had a first round knockout in his last fight and looked sensational. His level of opposition has been questioned, but what you can't question is the talent. And both guys have seemed like decent ticket sellers. I think Ennis has probably sold a little bit more tickets in his fights, but I mean that's a matter of debate. But for Oscar to come out and think that his fighter, who's not a big draw or big star yet, should get 60% of the purse, and he doesn't even have a world championship title. He's never been a world champion, which actually Ennis unified the titles at welterweight. Whether you want to question the quality of his opposition, that's a matter for debate. But either way, this is a 50-50 fight as far as, both guys have a decent fan base. Both guys are not huge names, and both guys want a boatload of money. And that's why I think this fight is just way premature. Not because they shouldn't fight, but if one guy is getting, 3-4 million to fight a handpicked opponent, how much money do you think these guys want to get into the ring with a guy that could get a beat? And I think the problem nowadays is it's not even really the fighters necessarily. The promoters are so worried that if their fighter loses a fight, that it's going to ruin their career. And I don't think it's the loss that ruins a fighter's career. It's how you lose. So if you wind up getting knocked out or you look bad, that could hurt your career. But a lot of fighters you'll see out there, their stock actually rises in a loss. So it just depends on the scenario. I think they have a misconception about fans, how they view boxing, and I think a lot of that comes from these social media sites, which a lot of it is fabricated, because a lot of boxing fans don't spend time on Twitter. They don't spend a lot of time on, I don't know. There's so many of them now. Instagram, these different reels. I mean, there's so much. I mean, and a lot of it is just trash. To be honest, that's kind of why you don't see me posting a lot. But I think I have a lot of information to put out there. But I'm not going to spend hours a day posting my every thought about everything, because if I did that, all I would be doing is constantly getting trolled, and I just don't really have time for that. Um, but as far as this fight goes, long story short, I just don't see this fight happening anytime soon. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's almost like they're negotiating a fight just so they can get their name out there in the stratosphere with no real intention of kind of coming to a deal. Because, I mean, how much did these guys expect to get paid? I mean, what, 5 million, 10 million each? It's just not going to happen. I mean, where are they going to get this money from? I mean, that's what I understand nowadays is it's like putting the cart before the horse, in the sense that you want to be a superstar, but you actually want to get paid superstar money before you actually got to becoming a superstar. And this fight is kind of one of those where whoever wins that fight actually might become a superstar. There's no guarantee, but the magnitude of a fight can create a superstar in the sense of, for example, when Floyd Mayweather beat Oscar De La Hoya, that was kind of a coming out party and made him a star. People are going to get, well, I guess the problem with these two fighters is neither guy's got much of a personality from that standpoint. They just don't have any mainstream popularity at this point. So the fight is going to sell the fighter instead of the other way around, because these two guys, unless they have the right dance partner, I mean, it's not getting the public's attention. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Another fight coming up. I'm just going to go kind of check upcoming schedule. Who's actually there's a big fight coming up this month, and actually the calendar looks pretty good so far. Just going to check boxrec.com, everybody's best, or at least my favorite boxing resource that we have nowadays. And after I speak about this, I'm going to speak about this past Saturday's fight, which was an excellent fight. But we're going to talk about the big fight that I believe is at Madison Square Garden. We're going to see what the turnout is on that. And actually, this fight is scheduled for the 31st of this month. Big fight, Teofimo Lopez, WBO junior welterweight champion. That's 140 pounds. And he's going to be fighting the WBC lightweight champion, Shakur Stevenson. Great fight on paper. I'm really glad that both these guys were able to make a deal. This is something that I wish could happen with Ortiz and Ennis. These guys seem like they've kind of come to a realization on what their market value is. And somehow they've been able to make the fight. I don't know. I know Turkey is involved. Turkey Al-Sheikh, the guy with the deep pockets from the Saudi investment fund, who can kind of make some of these fights that are difficult to happen in boxing get the funding together to make them happen. Will this fight actually sell or make money? That's remains to be seen. How is it going to do at the gate? How many pay-per-view buys is it going to sell? What are the fighters asking? That's the biggest question to me with boxing nowadays is if big fights are getting funded, but every time they have a big fight or a so-called big fight that the fans say they want, if nobody's buying it, what is the incentive for these entities who want to be involved in boxing to pay fighters these big amounts of money if the market value is not there, for lack of a better term? If you're putting up $20 million, so I'm just throwing a number out there for two guys that can't really sell pay-per-view, and the fight can only generate $5 million, just say at the gate, and then on pay-per-view it's only generating, just say, let's just say 10 million. So right there, that's $15 million. You just paid out 20. That's a $5 million loss. And then mind you, that doesn't take into consideration production costs and advertising and whatnot. So I don't know what that number would be off the top of my head, but yeah. So you get the point I'm making is nobody's in business to lose money, but at the same time, you got to lose some money to make money in the future. So, I mean, it's a catch-22 in a way, but you can't just keep throwing money at the problem and think it's going to fix the problem, because money isn't necessarily how you fix the problem. The way you fix the problem is you find out what the problem is and then you fix it. Money is just a tool to help fixing the problem. And I think that's what the issue is, especially in boxing nowadays, is everybody who tries to get involved in boxing thinks that because they got a big bag of money, that they're just going to wave a magic wand and it's going to fix all the problems in the sport of boxing. And this is going to be an issue, especially with this fight, because we're going to see what the interest is in these next couple of weeks, because I haven't really been hearing a lot. But as far as the fight goes, Teofimo Lopez, 22-1. I believe he's got about 13 or 14 knockouts. He's definitely the bigger puncher and the bigger man, because he started out his career at 135 pounds. He was a unified champion at 135, beat the Solomochenko. Lost his title to George Kambosos, and I mean, one of the biggest upsets I've seen in quite some time. Shakur Stevenson, 24-0, 11 KOs, former champion, I believe WBO at 126. And I mean, this guy has been growing. I mean, he's moved up from 126, world championships. I believe he unified titles at 130. He's a WBC champion at 135. And now he's at 140. And he just seems to be chasing the biggest fights possible. Doesn't have an appealing style. So he's the kind of style that even if you beat him, you're probably going to look bad unless you knock him out. I mean, he's just a hard guy to land punches on, or just, he just has, I wouldn't say he's like an unexciting fighter, as people say, or a runner, but he's not a guy that throws a lot of punches. He kind of waits for you to make a mistake, and he'll kind of make you pay, but he's not going to make you pay in the way where he's going to like hurt you all that bad. He's just going to make you look bad. And then after a while, if you start to get frustrated, he can catch you with something that you don't see. He might put you on your butt, but he's not going to really go in there and try to just run you over. So not the most appealing fighter to watch, but if you're a fan of the sweet science, I mean, you can appreciate what he employs in there. He's left-handed. That's obviously an advantage. He's got a good jab. He just got a good set of strong fundamentals that he kind of sticks behind, and he knows how to dictate how a fight is being fought. Teofimo Lopez, on the other hand, good on the back foot, good as a counterpuncher. Doesn't like to take the lead, but can take the lead. Has more problems when he has to take the lead. But I think with Teofimo Lopez, I think with him, he has more tricks that he can kind of use because he's athletic, he's quick. There's more things that I think he could bring to the table that I think he just hasn't either been using or I just think he's not employing certain things in there. Needs to kind of use his good boxing IQ to his advantage and not have like lapses of concentration. You'll see him in fights sometimes and he starts showboating and doing things that he doesn't really need to do. You know what I mean? He needs to go in there and be focused and take care of business. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, if I had to lean one way, just because of the mentality of the fighters, I'm kind of leaning towards Stevenson, but just the fact that Stevenson, he can't punch. And if Lopez kind of fights a smart fight and doesn't give Stevenson a whole bunch of opportunities and kind of makes him take the lead at times he doesn't want to, he could win a 12-round decision and outbox him. Just because of the athletic ability. And Stevenson's never fought anybody, like that. And also with Lopez actually fights well against left-handers, believe it or not. Most fighters are not good fighting southpaws. Lopez, on the other hand, he's pretty good. Well, I guess depending, because he didn't look all that good against trying to remember the Spanish guy that he fought, Sandor Martin, that he fought a few years back. He didn't look all that good against him, but it's gonna be tough because Shakur Stevenson's a spoiler. So I mean, if you had to flip a coin, I'd honestly, as the fight gets a little bit closer, I'd give you a better answer. Right now, I'm slightly leaning towards Shakur Stevenson just because of he's got a higher boxing IQ than Teofimo. Teofimo seems a little bit of like a head case to me. Boxing IQ, love Shakur Stevenson. Boxing history IQ, terrible. I mean, he was saying some just ridiculous stuff. I heard this interview, I think he had it was on one of these podcasts, I believe Andre Ward's podcast or somebody, and he was saying, James Toney is not that great of a fighter. I don't want to take his words out of context. I'm paraphrasing here, but he's just been saying some real weird things about some of these all-time great fighters. I mean, come on, man. You don't think James Toney is a great fighter or he's be an easy fighter to beat? Or, I mean, come on, man. Just when you're talking about legends in boxing, just hold your tongue. I mean, if you don't know, I heard he was saying stuff about Marvin Hagler, and he said he didn't know. He had never watched tape, and he didn't realize that Marvin Hagler could box. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just a younger generation. I think we kind of went through the same thing when I was kind of coming up. I think everybody's like that. Their generation, that's who they latch on to. And the previous generation is going to think that they're better, or they think their generation's better than the previous generation. But at least do your homework before you start making statements about history without doing the research. But anyways, moving on from that, Terrence Crawford. Since I've been away, he pretty much mopped the floor with Canelo Alvarez. Good for him, and he's since retired. So it seems like who will carry the torch um, for the future of boxing? That's the real question here. Tank Davis. Um, is he actually going to fight again? He's somebody that could carry the torch, but it doesn't seem like he's all that interested in boxing anymore. Um, Ryan Garcia lost his last fight, but he's fighting a very beatable fighter in Mario Barrios. Will Ryan Garcia, the social media superstar that he is, come in focus and win this fight if he can? I mean, that's going to be huge for the sport of boxing because he's got mainstream fanfare. Is he a likable individual? That's I don't know, but he definitely gets the attention of the mainstream public. He's got a lot of followers on social media, whatever that means. Just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean you're a positive person. I mean, you can be popular by trolling people. I think that's a problem I have with social media nowadays. Is a lot of people's mission is just to get a reaction out of people so they can make money. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If you had a social media channel and you were talking about something positive, yes, you might get some traction, but it's much easier to just start attacking people and you're going to get potentially more engagement that way. Controversy is a great seller. I mean, you see it in news and in politics. I mean, that's where politics is basically where it's gone as far as its coverage. People think that as long as they latch on to the negative, they're going to get people's attention. I mean, definitely, you kind of see that. Um, that being said, who will carry the sport of boxing? It's not going to be Canelo. Um, it's not going to be Usyk. I mean, he's like 38 years old, so he's on the back end of his career. David Benavidez, he's got a shot, but the problem with Benavidez is who's he going to fight? If you don't have the right type of opponent to make you a star, it's very difficult. It's like this one show I listened to. I'm just going to give him a shout out. World Week Radio. Um, Joseph Heron. He made a good point. And he said, "There's really and I'm paraphrasing. There's no formula to like making a superstar. It's like, for example, I mean, Canelo Alvarez. I mean, really, what's the superstar quality that he has? I mean, that he's a Mexican with red hair, or I think he was on a reality show in Mexico before he got popular as a boxer. So I think that actually is what gained him popularity because he was in the mainstream. So I think and then Ryan Garcia, obviously, he kind of sold himself through social media. Um, Jake Paul, for example, not really a great fighter, um, but he got his popularity outside of boxing and then he came to boxing. It's very rare nowadays that you see a fighter that's popular because of boxing, and that's what made them mainstream. It's kind of you're kind of going the other way to becoming a star. Um, but anyways, I just wanted to give a quick impromptu. I'm going to talk just briefly about the NBA and what's going on currently, from the best of my knowledge and just my thoughts on the season itself and some things that have been going on. Um, Oklahoma City Thunder. Definitely right now, my MVP favorite has got to be Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Um, he just does it all. I mean, he's very consistent. I don't know how many 20 plus point games he's scored, but I mean, he's up there in history. I think he's number two to Wilt in consecutive games where he scored 20 or more. Um, number two in the league in scoring. It's possible he could get the scoring title. I think that's going to depend on how the season rolls out with Luka Doncic because he's a scoring machine. Um, we'll see how many games. Like a lot of these guys that they're up for the awards um, might not even make it because I think you need to win or play in 65 games to be all NBA or to win MVP or even scoring title. I'm not sure how the scoring title or that stuff works, but either way, I mean, right now, Nikola Jokic's having a historical season, but I don't think he's going to actually qualify because he's injured. I don't think he's going to make the 65 game threshold. I don't think Victor Wembanyama is going to make 65 game threshold. They might need to change that threshold to maybe a little bit less. I mean, these guys just I wouldn't say they're not as durable as the players from the past. I just think now the NBA game is so much more faster paced. I mean, it's they're running up and down. They're not playing a whole lot of defense, um, but it's more the running around, shooting the threes. It's actually been pretty exciting though because teams like Oklahoma City, they're not necessarily like a 3-point powerhouse. I mean, they're a little bit more old school and they got a good range of players. They're very defensively sound. I think they got the best defense in the NBA. And then there's a lot of young teams that are coming out, a lot of good young players that are starting to get attention of the public. And players like LeBron, KD, James Harden, um, Kawhi Leonard, those guys are kind of on their way out. And we have some pretty good young stars in the league that I think are going to carry the league, like Anthony Edwards. He's a really, he's a top player in the league. I think he's a top 5, top 10 easily for the last few years. We're going to get hopefully Jason Tatum back at the end of the year for the Celtics. He was out with, I believe, in the playoffs with a ACL. Either ACL or is that the MSAT? I don't know. I think it was an ankle injury that he had. Um, but just modern science. I mean, some of the injuries these guys are having now, if they would have had them like 15, 20 years ago, those are like career-ending injuries. So, luck to these players to be able to come back from, some of these injuries that they're having. So, that being said, basketball, good season. OKC's got to be the favorite. Timberwolves have been on a little bit of a run. It's going to be interesting because San Antonio Spurs look really good. They've given Oklahoma City Thunder, I think, 3 of their 7 losses have gone to them. So that might be an interesting matchup if they actually wind up against each other in the playoffs. It's just going to all depend on which team is more healthy. I mean, honestly, and also Jalen Williams on OKC. He's been struggling a little bit, but I think coming back from a hand injury, it's going to have a big effect, because I mean, your ball handling, your shooting and stuff. I don't know if that was his shooting hand or not, but he had like a wrist injury and he was out for the first couple months of the year, and he's been back and his production has been down a little bit. And I'm assuming it just has to do with, I mean, you come back from an injury like that, you haven't been practicing shooting because you can't shoot if you got a broken wrist. So it's going to take some time to kind of get your rhythm back. And then obviously, I mean, he's probably in shape because, you can train and stuff with a broken wrist, but you can't shoot. And shooting is like ball handling. I mean, that's the skill part of the game. You know what I mean? The conditioning is the other part. And for the most part, I think most guys in the NBA anyways, I mean, are usually in pretty good shape. I mean, you have to be an NBA player, for the most part. It's not like baseball or anything. That being said, I think that's kind of all I need to talk about today. I just kind of want to give an update on the channel, let everybody know that I am back. I'm going to be talking boxing and basketball for the most part. If there's any other topics anybody wants to hear me speak about, I'm just going to start posting live. Hopefully, this channel grows. Obviously, I have tons of videos on here. I have original content. I'm going to try to go back out in the field and maybe go to some of the gyms and shoot some content. I might just shoot content of myself working out at the gym, jumping rope, hitting bags, whatnot, and do shows, in tandem with that. So you can kind of see me little bits and pieces of my workouts, which, I'm almost 50, so it ain't gonna be like watching anything special, but just some different stuff to see. But that being said, I guess we're gonna call this KO Nation podcast episode 48, I believe. Um, but yeah, this is KP Kevin Perry, Platinum Sports Media, and we are going to be covering great stuff in sports. And also, I'm going to probably start doing some maybe some music stuff on here, maybe some old school music reviews. Well, we're going to kind of just get you locked in on popular culture and sports and music. And that being said, thanks again, and I will see you later.